Hi, this is Harriet Grayson, your host and the producer of Community Culture Showcase. And since it's summertime, if not completely yet, the Memorial Day has arrived and the summer season begins, I thought we should have something nice and light and cheery for today. So we have a wonderful musical guest. I have with us Faye and Ann, and we have the great opportunity to give us, actually going to sing for us, tell us a little bit about the songs that they like to sing, and how they got involved with singing in the first place. So whoever started off, how about Faye? You want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to do for us today and, what got you started?
Well, I'm going to be playing the piano and singing one song, but our main singer is Ms. Ann Flemmang, sitting next to me. And these are songs from a cabaret that we put together called Voices of Love. When you think of how many love songs there are, it's almost impossible to look through the traditional American songbook, the Great American Songbook as it's known, all of the great popular songs and songs from Broadway musicals. It's hard to look through those and not find a love song. And we'll be singing a selection of the happier love songs today. I'm from Norwich. I grew up and still live in Eastern Connecticut, and I have been doing music since I was 5 years old, which means that for almost 60 years, I've been entertaining people. And interestingly, I started by entertaining seniors when I was very young, and now I am one.
Oh, you look terrific. Don't say that. So what got you involved with music, though? Did you go to music school? Did you get that kind of experience?
No, I began taking piano lessons just like kids do, but I just knew it was what I loved to do. And I have sung in just about every, and played the piano in just about every situation that you could imagine, from folk and traditional to nightclubs to cabarets to musicals on stage. But mostly I have played the piano for many, many singers. And but my career was as a professor of English.
Oh, where were you teaching?
I taught at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, which is where I met Ann.
Oh.
We are both retired from the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, Department of Humanities.
Interesting, interesting. You wouldn't think that they would even need to know English, but I guess even guys on boats and guys and girls on boats need to know something about the English language, huh?
Well, I think Ann can speak to that.
Well, we did. We had actually a very nice arts education program in the Humanities Department. Cadets studied drawing at the Lime Academy College of Fine Arts.
Oh, interesting.
Someone set up, a patron of the department set up a scholarship for cadets to study drawing at the Florence Academy of Art in Florence, Italy.
Oh, my goodness.
So we had, I think our belief was that officers in the Coast Guard need to be Renaissance people. So the arts, we felt, had a very strong role to play in their development as leaders.
Interesting. Of course, the band is renowned worldwide and plays in many places.
All over the world.
But they're not necessarily actually were students at the academy.
No, they're just stationed. The band is stationed at the academy, but no, they're not students. So,
and of course, this is, because we've had other guests, this is the 225th year for the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard has big doings happening all summer, so that's kind of interesting. So how do you apply for a job at the Coast Guard? Are you actually, you aren't members of the armed services?
Ann was.
Oh.
Ann, and she won't say this for herself, was a member of one of the first classes to admit women to the Coast Guard Academy, and she retired with great honors as a captain in the Coast Guard.
Oh my goodness! So where did you go all over the world?
No, I spent most of my career, I spent almost 25 years teaching at the academy. But before that, I was on a 378, that's a high endurance cutter, stationed out of Alameda, California, and we did do a patrol where we ended up in Japan. So, so I went to Japan with the Coast Guard, and it was an amazing experience because we went as goodwill ambassadors, largely because the Coast Guard mission that was the primary mission for our cutter was fisheries patrols. So we would go up to Alaska and enforce the 200-mile fishery zone around the United States and board international fishing boats, many of which were from Japan.
Oh,
So
okay.
when we went, we weren't just tourists, we were honored guests. And we were feted for 3 days, and it was the most amazing and wonderful experience. But mostly, I was in Alaska.
Oh, okay. Fascinating, actually. So did you sing when you were in
Yeah,
the
we
Coast
always,
Guard?
yes, I think singing has always been a part of both of our lives, and like many amateurs, we do it for the love
Okay.
of the singing.
Okay.
So, like Faye, I began singing, in middle school and high school.
Okay.
As a cadet, I was in the Glee Club and an all-women's group called the Icebreakers. They're no longer called the Icebreakers, but that's what they were called then. And I sang in a trio, an Andrews Sisters trio.
Oh.
And we would, like Faye, we would sing anywhere. So we actually would sing in we would just go out for the evening wherever there was a band.
Okay.
And then we would ask, can we use your mics during the break? And they would say, sure. And then while they were breaking, we would get up and sing Andrews Sisters songs. So we were nuts. We would just sing anywhere, anytime.
I guess that's true. If you got the performer blood, you go anywhere and anything to go ahead and have an audience.
Absolutely.
That is fabulous. So where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in Fresno, California.
Oh, okay. Not too close to the sea.
I would say it was a desert.
I've been to Fresno.
Oh, you've been to Fresno. Oh, so you definitely know, right? Called desert, yes. Right.
And were you actually through the whole academy process so that your congressperson or somebody recommended you?
Yeah, at the Coast Guard Academy, you don't need a congressional representative. It is a federal service academy like West Point or Annapolis, but the appointments come directly from the superintendent of the Coast Guard Academy.
So you would apply as if you were applying to any college?
Precisely.
I see. Okay, that's very interesting. But you are not a graduate of the academy?
No.
Okay.
My whole career was as a civilian professor.
Okay.
And I retired as a full professor and became professor emerita, as Anne did just a few months ago.
So that's interesting that the academy actually hires civilians.
Oh yes,
About a third of the faculty.
Oh, okay, that's fascinating. And I would assume that because of having the presence of the band and having singers, I mean, I've just watched the band.
You've never come to one of our musicals?
No.
Oh yeah, the cadets do a musical every year.
Oh, no.
And they
Is
also have a drama club, and they do.
And this is open to the public?
The drama club I don't know about,
No.
but the cadet musicals are open to the public.
Oh, interesting. Well, that would be, and you actually performed in those.
Many years ago.
Oh, not recently.
Not recently.
Okay.
I now perform in the audience.
By
I applaud at the
by
end.
clapping.
But
I see.
I accompanied the shows. I played the piano for rehearsals. I was an assistant director from the mid-'80s until I retired and after.
That's great. So then how do you see yourselves as performers now? I mean, you say you're amateurs, but you would like to be, I'm sure, paid by some theater or have a record? No?
Not really.
No, we really prefer to perform for audiences that appreciate the music.
Okay.
And that usually means senior groups of one kind or another. We performed these very songs, this cabaret, for the Adventures in Lifelong Learning, which is the learning and retirement program at Three Rivers Community College in Norwich. This is an organization that I've been working with since it formed in the 90s, and now I'm a member. And it provides 4 months a year of nearly free courses for anyone over 55, ranging from single lectures to writing groups to movie series to our musical performances, other musical performances, lectures by faculty members at Three Rivers, lectures by other volunteers. It's completely volunteer run and it's hosted by the college.
Interesting. That sounds fascinating. And that means anybody in my listening audience who, you have to be a resident of Connecticut?
No, well, I don't think there's even a residency requirement. Anyone who's over 55 is welcome to show up for as few or as many courses as they like.
Oh, that is wonderful. That's interesting. I know Three Rivers. Is it only Three Rivers, or do all the colleges do it?
Well, Three Rivers is the only one in eastern Connecticut,
Okay.
the southeastern Connecticut, that has one. There's a learning and retirement program at UConn,
Oh,
which is
okay.
much more elaborate.
Right.
The one at UConn is entirely run by their faculty, and they tend to have somewhat longer courses.
Right, right.
There are a few others at other colleges in the state. They're all considered non-residential elder hostels. That is,
Oh.
they're affiliated with the national network that used to be called Elder Hostel and is now called Rhodes Scholar.
Okay.
But unlike those programs, they're non-residential. They're for the people in the area rather than
Oh.
for people coming in from far away.
So people would just go online to Three Rivers Community College and look for something called the Rhodes Scholar, or
Well, look for Adventures in Lifelong Learning.
Okay.
It's on the page with what used to be the Department of Continuing Education, but now is called Workforce Education.
okay, even though you don't necessarily have to do anything in the workforce.
That's
No,
right.
That's right.
It's counterintuitive.
That's right. It is counterintuitive, actually.
But I think
Yeah.
if you Google or there's search on the Three Rivers site, Adventures in Lifelong Learning, the schedule will come up.
That's wonderful, and we have something, and I gather we've talked about this earlier, there's something going on in the fall where people can just kind of
That's right.
Yes.
get online and find it.
Yes, the sign-up begins in September, and the courses are run in October and early November.
That's great. Now, you mentioned earlier the American Songbook, so tell our audience a little bit about what that actually means, the American Songbook. What is that?
Well, does it come out of Tin Pan Alley?
Yes.
Faye? So, in the early 20th century, there were a whole group of composers and lyricists who began writing songs, some for musicals, but
Broadway musicals.
some for
Yeah.
musicals, but some just because we had these new technologies called radio, and we could record songs on records and play them on gramophones. I mean, it changed. It changed actually the way songs were written, because the early gramophones could only play about a 3-minute song.
Okay.
Songs were written to last about
Yes.
3 minutes.
Right.
So the American Songbook are the songs that became very, very popular, and then over the years, great singers just made these songs their songs. So you think Ella Fitzgerald or Mel Torme or Frank Sinatra. I mean, the body of music that they specialized in is what we call the American Songbook.
That's wonderful. And my husband is a distant relative of Irving Berlin.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And his name actually wasn't Berlin, but Balin, which is my husband's mother's family name.
Oh wow.
So yes.
We do some Irving Berlin songs.
In
and
our show. The one I'm
the
singing.
one song, or Faye is singing today, is Irving Berlin.
And my husband is a pianist, and he loves to play a lot of those old songs. So
Yeah.
that's great. So now, with that intro, you are actually going to perform for my audience.
Yes.
So I invite you to go to your key. Now that's a keyboard, right?
Yes.
Or is it an electric piano? Just to be.
No, it's just considered to be a keyboard, and it's brought to you courtesy of Roz Etra, who's a great Norwich musician who she and I also do a lot of programs together.
Okay, great. So as my guests get themselves collected and around, they're going to sing for us and give us a little bit about the particular songs. Remember, these are songs of love, love in the lighthearted sense, the kind of love that we all wish we could have. And so they're going to talk about a little bit about the song, and then they're going to sing for us, and you're going to love every minute of it. So take it away, my artists.
Harriet, that was such a beautiful introduction, so thank you. Well, we're starting out with a song that we think of as a song about young love. So in our entire show, Voices of Love, there are many voices. So we start with young love. And this song comes from a musical called Wonderful Town. The lyricists were Betty Comden and Adolph Green, and the composer was Leonard Bernstein. And the story concerns two sisters who came from Ohio, based on real-life sisters, Ruth and Eileen McKinney. There were a number of films based on their life. The film, the play, My Sister Eileen. So our So Wonderful Town is based on that same narrative about their adventures, if you will, when they're trying to make it in New York. Ruth as a writer, Eileen as an actress. And in this song, Eileen sings to us. Eileen is a character. She's a little bit dreamy. She's a little bit naive. And she's a little bit in love. I'm a little bit in love. Never felt this way before. Just a little bit in love, or perhaps a little bit more. When he looks at me, everything's hazy and all out of focus. When he touches me, I'm in the spell of a strange hocus pocus. It's so, I don't know, I'm so, I don't know, but I know if it's love, then it's lovely. It's so nice to be alive when you meet someone who bewitches you. Will he be my all, or did I just fall a little bit in love? When he looks at me, everything's hazy and all out of focus. When he touches me, I'm in the spell of a strange hocus pocus. It's so, I don't know, I'm so, I don't know, but I know if it's love, then it's lovely. It's so nice to be alive when you meet someone who bewitches you. Will he be my all, or did I just fall a little bit in love?
Wonderful! Your audience here. Wonderful, wonderful. I hope everybody watching is going to cheer along. That was lovely, lovely. And of course, Leonard Bernstein, one of the foremost composers of every kind, and of course the conductor for many, many years of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so now what are we going to turn to? What's the next one? So now we're going to turn to something a little more contemporary. From the lyricist Lynn Ahrens and the composer Stephen Flaherty comes a musical based on the Hans Christian Andersen story, The Little Mermaid, which many people know from the Disney movie and eventually a Broadway play based on The Little Mermaid. But this was a one-act musical called Once Upon an Island. And the song I'm about to sing, unfortunately, was eventually cut from the show. So Ahrens and Flaherty wrote it for the show. Dramaturgically, it didn't fit, but a lot of singers have made it a standalone piece. So this is a song about love that needs to be coaxed out of its hiding.
Come down.
Oh, I'm
come
sorry.
Down
the
from
title,
the tree.
Come down from the tree. Come down from the tree. Just open your arms and trust. You know in your heart that one of these days you
that safe little nest you've made. When you have something so warm and familiar to cling to, your arms won't let go. You close your eyes to the dark, press your nose to the bark, and hold on, yes and no. But down below is where you must be, and what you were meant to do. So hold out your hand and listen to someone who was once in a tree like you. La 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 la. Ooh, ah. Soon you'll have someone so warm and familiar to cling to and love till you die. Your heart knows what it needs. You must go where it leads. Leave the nest. Learn to fly. And that's why I came down from my tree. And all that I held so dear, when I found my love, the rest of my life was clear. Come down from the tree. Come down. I'm here.
Beautiful, beautiful, lovely, lovely, lovely. So, what attracted you to that particular song? I mean, it's just, it's airy.
It's that I think the feelings behind it are so wonderful. It's upbeat, but it's about, I think something kind of serious. Sometimes we are very afraid to take that step and let go of our safety blanket, net, tree in this case, and give love a chance. And so here's someone coaxing that person. And what's so wonderful is that, she says, you can trust me. I was there, I know, and I will catch you. I think it's a beautiful song.
That's wonderful. So now, what's our next one?
Well, we mentioned Irving Berlin before.
Yes.
And this is a great Irving Berlin song from his musical, which is not produced very much anymore, Call Me Madam.
Oh, yes.
Call Me Madam was really written for Ethel Merman, but it's from the early 50s, and it is based on a true story. People who remember the 50s might remember the name of Pearl Mesta, who was sometimes called the hostess with the mostess. She was a Washington hostess who entertained all of the dignitaries and provided a place where people of both parties could meet. She was so popular that Harry Truman, in his somewhere in the 1949, actually appointed her to be an ambassador to the tiny country of Luxembourg. So Irving Berlin said, wow, what if she had been appointed to a country behind the Iron Curtain?
Oh.
Imagine a character like that. So many people have remarked that I sound a lot like Ethel Merman. So I'm going to be channeling Ethel Merman as the hostess with the mostess on the ball by Irving Berlin. I was born on 1,000 acres of Oklahoma land. Nothing grew on the 1,000 acres, 'cause it was gravel and sand. One day Father started digging in the field, hoping to find some soil. He dug and what do you think? Oil, oil, oil. The money rolled in and I startled out with a fortune piled so high. Washington was my destination, and now who am I? I'm the chosen party giver by the White House clientele, and they know that I deliver what it takes to make them gel. And in Washington I'm known by one and all as the hostess with the mostest on the ball. They would go to Elsa Maxwell when they had an axe to grind. They could always grind their axe well at the party she designed. But the hatchet grinders now prefer to call on the hostess with the mostest on the ball. I've a great big bar and good caviar, yes, the best that can be found, and a large amount in my bank account when election time comes around. If your thoughts are presidential, you can make it, yes indeed. There are just 3 things essential. Let me tell you of them, please. It's an ounce of wisdom and a pound of gold. And the hostess with the mostest on the ball. Entertaining vodka drinkers is a job they give to me. Making nice guys out of stinkers seems to be my cup of tea. What they really need behind the iron wall is the hostess with the mostest on the ball. There's a book of regulations, who sits next to who. And there may be some complications when the blue blood's not so blue. So the priestess with the leastest protocol is the hostess with the mostest on the ball. An ambassador has just reached the shore. He is a man of many loves, an important gent from the Orient, to be handled with kid gloves. He can come and let his hair down, have the best time of his life, even bring his new affair down, introduce her as his wife. But she mustn't leave her panties in the hall of the hostess with the mostest on the ball. Yes, the hostess with the mostest, not the priestess with the leastest. It's the hostess with the mostest on the ball.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And Washington might work a lot better if we had a hostess with the mostest.
Those were the days. She
Yes.
was so popular, Pearl Mesta, that she retained her influence when Eisenhower became president. She was a good friend of Mamie Eisenhower's, and her parties were places where Democrats and Republicans could actually meet on equal terms.
Well, that's what we definitely need in Congress now. All right, so now what's our next one?
Well, Anne's going to come back.
All right.
And appropriately, because we were just talking about the cadet musicals.
Yes.
Anne was, in fact, featured in the role of Carrie Pipperidge, who is the one who marries Mr. Snow in the musical Carousel.
Oh,
And then she
yes.
repeated that role some years later with the late lamented Pfizer Players, who once upon a time used to do really great musicals underwritten by Pfizer.
Oh.
Can I just add
Sure,
something
please.
to that? So in the Pfizer Players show, we had a working carousel on the stage for the opening scene. If you've seen Carousel, you know they Carrie and Julie Jordan go to a
Midway.
Yeah, a
Yes.
midway,
A carnival.
absolutely, a carnival. And we rode the carousel in that opening sequence, which was wonderful. Then at the end of the show, the producer sold the horses, and I bought one of them. So it's my best prop ever.
Wonderful.
So
And that is, I must say, my most favorite musical of all.
Really?
Carousel?
Yes, Carol.
Oh.
I like them a little dark.
Oh, this
So,
one,
yes.
it's definitely dark.
Yes.
It's based on a Molnick play. Did I pronounce
Molnar.
that? Molnar play.
Yes,
So it's based on
absolutely
an
my,
earlier play.
my favorite. And Goodspeed put it on a couple of years ago.
Oh, they
Put
did
on
a beautiful.
and I have
Yes.
seen it on
Yeah.
Broadway, and I actually saw it in Paris. So I mean,
Wow.
I
Oh, wow.
love Carousel.
Okay, well, great. All right, so this is Carrie Pipperidge telling Julie about her boyfriend.
His name is Mr. Snow, and an upstanding man is he. He comes home every night with a round-bottom boat in a net full of herring from the sea. An almost perfect beau, as refined as a girl could wish. But he spends so much time in his round-bottom boat that he can't seem to lose the smell of fish. The first time he kissed me, the whiff of his clothes knocked me flat on the floor of the room. But now that I love him, my heart's in my nose, and fish is my favorite perfume. Last night he spoke quite low, and a fair-spoken man is he. And he said, Miss Pipperidge, I'd like it fine if I could be wed with a wife. And indeed, Miss Pipperidge, if you'll be mine, I'll be yours for the rest of my life. Next moment we were promised, and now my mind's in a haze. For all I can do is look forward to that wonderful day of days. When I marry Mr. Snow, the flowers will be humming with the buzz of bees. The birds will make a racket in the churchyard trees. When I marry Mr. Snow, then it's off to home we'll go. And both of us will look a little dreary-eyed, driving by a cottage by the ocean side, where the salty breezes blow. He'll carry me across the threshold, and I'll be as meek as a lamb. Then he'll set me on my feet, and I'll say kinda sweet, well, Mr. Snow, here I am. Then I'll kiss him so he'll know that everything will be as right can be, a living in a cottage by the sea with me. For I love that Mr. Snow, that young seafaring, bold and daring, big be-whiskered, overbearing, darling Mr. Snow.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And a great musical. And yes, you fit the part. Yes, absolutely. When You Marry Mr. Snow. Wonderful. I strongly endorse people seeing, if not, they can't see the show, they should definitely see the movie Carousel. Absolutely. Well, thank you. I mean, this is so exciting to have such great musical guests. Now, you guys are, now that you are retired from your life in the Coast Guard, are involved with lots of community groups. So you are, now I give you the opportunity. Let's have a plug. Tell us, you know, which groups they are, what they should see, and what should the audience kind of keep an eye out for.
Well, Anne is an associate artist with Flock Theatre of New London, and I think she should start.
Okay, great. Thanks, Faye. So in my other life,
Yes.
as Faye said, I'm one of the artistic associates. There are 10 of us. This is Flock's newest initiative to select essentially a permanent ensemble of artists who will also help run the business side of the theater. It's been a long time dream of the artistic director, Darren Wood, to do this, and he established it just in April, actually. So
it's brand new.
Brand new.
Okay.
So we're very excited about that. We are, our goal is to grow the theater. So this is Flock's 23rd year in New London.
Okay.
Still led by the founding director, Darren Wood. And this summer they are doing a number of shows in the Connecticut College Arboretum.
Okay.
They're doing Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
All right.
Production that features a lot of music and a lot of very funny comedy.
Okay.
Which I know Mark Twain says you should never say that because then people won't think it's funny, but they will find it funny. And that's in June.
Okay.
And in July, Flock Theatre, for the first time, is doing Shakespeare's first tragedy, Titus Andronicus, which is a very violent show. But my thought is, if you like Game of Thrones,
Right.
Titus Andronicus is right up your alley.
You just have to put the TV on and watch what's going on in the world. It doesn't have to be fantasy.
No, it's very Game of Thrones-y.
Okay.
Except obviously before Game of Thrones. So
Right.
that's in July. It's running July 15th through 19th and the 22nd through the 26th. Again, in the Arboretum, the shows start at 7 p.m. So it's outdoor theater, which is its own.
Oh, yes.
That's right. It's its own interesting
Yes,
way of
definitely.
watching Shakespeare.
Okay.
And then in August, for the first time, Flock Theatre is doing Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night. And they will be performing that in the hall of St. Mary Star of the Sea Church
Oh, in
on
Stonington.
Huntington Street
No,
in New
New
London.
Oh, New London.
And there's an interesting connection between that church and the O'Neill family.
Oh, really?
They were parishioners.
Oh, no kidding.
So they attend, not Eugene, he didn't go to
Right,
church.
I couldn't imagine he wouldn't.
But his parents attended St. Mary's Star of the Sea. So that will be running the first 3 weekends in August. And then Labor Day weekend, Flock does their 3rd annual Burning of Benedict Arnold. And this has a very, Faye might be able to help me here with the history. This has a very interesting origin. The British celebrate Guy Fawkes Day.
Right.
And one of the things they do to celebrate Guy Fawkes Day is they burn effigies of Guy Fawkes, the great traitor. Well, pre-Revolutionary War New London celebrated Guy Fawkes Day and burned Guy Fawkes in effigy. Well, after the war, they didn't want to continue a British tradition.
Right.
So we had our traitor, Benedict Arnold,
Right.
who, as your audience knows, is from Norwich.
Okay.
New London began to burn Benedict Arnold in effigy.
Okay.
And 3 years ago, Flock Theatre revived that tradition, and they burn Benedict Arnold in effigy after a whole weekend of events all over New London. And last year, this story was covered internationally. We had papers in London covered this story. So it's,
Interesting,
Yeah, so
interesting.
it got a lot of interest.
Oh.
And then at Halloween, always Flock does the Scottish play. So if you're not sure what that is, Google it. I don't want to say it in the studio. 'Cause
okay.
There's a superstition about it.
Okay.
But anyway, it
The one about that king
that
and his
king
wife.
and his wife.
Yes.
Okay. All
Who
right.
take over in a very violent way. Anyway, so they do
So
that
that-
every Halloween.
So Flock seems to gravitate towards Shakespeare. Is that the
Flock
preference?
does Shakespeare, but Flock also does a lot of contemporary theater as well.
Oh.
So they've done Tennessee Williams, Eugene O'Neill, Anton Chekhov, Sarah Rule, who is a contemporary American playwright.
Right.
So they do, Darren, he's very interested in stories that are rich in emotion. So he doesn't want to do just like a farce, so just straight comedy. And of course, he loves the tragedies, but the tragedies that also have comedy in them,
Right.
or comedies that also have a little bit of tragedy in them, are the stories that he's drawn to. So his theater is a theater that speaks, I think, deeply about the human condition.
Interesting. Now, Flock doesn't have its own house, right?
No.
So it goes from place to place. Is
That's
that
right.
So, but if you want to know about Flock Theater, they have a website, I'm sure.
Yes, so it's flocktheater.org, and theater is spelled Theatre,
The British way.
the British way. And also you can
Facebook.
follow Flock on Facebook. They have a very active Facebook presence. So if you're on Facebook, please like Flock on Facebook, and that's a great way to find out what's happening. But the website's also a great way to find out about what's happening if you're not on Facebook.
And what role are you going to play? Are you going to play some roles
I
coming up?
am
Yes.
going to play a role. I'm going to play Mary in Long Day's Journey into Night.
Oh.
Who was representing Eugene O'Neill's mother.
Well, his were very autobiographical. Could you
Yes.
enlighten the audience with a little bit about the play?
Yes, so the play, O'Neill set 3 plays in New London. His father, James O'Neill, was a great classically trained actor. He bought the rights to one role in The Count of Monte Cristo, and he played that as a touring show all over the United States and made a great deal of money doing that. But summer, of course, theaters are closed except for summer stock. He didn't do summer stock. So they spent their summers in New London. He purchased properties in New London, and the Monte Cristo Cottage, which is now owned and operated by the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, was their summer home. Long Day's Journey into Night, which O'Neill wrote in 1941, but was not published until after his death, is set in the parlor of the Monte Cristo Cottage in the summer of 1912. And it is very autobiographical. And the reason that it wasn't published until after his death was because he didn't want it published until 25 years after his death, because he was, how would you say it, Faye? He felt that he was really exposing
His family's
his
skeletons.
family. That's right, the
Yes.
skeletons coming out of the closet. But his wife had it published 2 years after his death. As it turns out, Yale University Press has the copyright. And I think those of us in theater are very happy that he did so. But it's one day. It covers about 12 hours in the life of a family where the father maybe compromised his artistic career and knows it. The mother is a morphine addict.
Okay.
The oldest son is an alcoholic, and he, in real life, will eventually drink himself to death. And the youngest son is a poet.
And that is Eugene.
And that
O'Neill.
is Eugene.
O'Neill. Yes.
And in the play, he's called Edmund.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And when is that going to be again? Put another shout out. Where is it?
It's going to play at St. Mary's Star of the Sea Church on Huntington Street in New London. Previews are the 6th through the 9th of August, and it opens for a 2-weekend run on the 13th of August.
Interesting. Now, how do you think you're the director of the Flock Theater? You know, what makes him make the decisions in terms of that particular one? Because that's a really dark play. I mean, and O'Neill is. I mean, I think he had one comedy.
Our Wilderness, which is one of the other New
Yes.
London plays. There were 3 New London plays.
Yeah, I mean, one comedy and some really takes you into the depths of one's soul. I mean, it's really heart-wrenching to actually experience, I think, O'Neill. So, you know, how does he come? I mean, it's
I know,
so dark.
It is, but I think, first of all, tragedies, O'Neill knew his theater history, and he knew tragedy, and he knew Greek tragedy, and he understood that from an Aristotelian analysis, or the theory of Aristotle, is that tragedy is supposed to bring the audience to that moment of catharsis. And that can only happen if the audience witnesses great suffering. So it's not that Flock wants the audience to suffer. That's the Greek idea. But I think, you know, the idea of tragedy is that it brings us to some release of emotion. And, you know, in a world where a lot of entertainment is about spectacle, I think there is great value in theater that lets us experience something besides just the pleasure of the visual.
It's a reality show of a different nature.
Well, and that was the other thing. I'm looking to Faye because she's a much better dramaturg than I am. But I think there's a real relevance to that story now. You know, a story where a family is really riven by addiction.
By addiction, by the dissension among siblings, by the children feeling that the parents have disappointed them, the parents feeling that the children have disappointed them. It really, it does feel very contemporary.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100 years ago when it really doesn't matter.
No.
I mean, it's right on target. You can hear from what I'm saying how much I enjoy seeing O'Neill. So I look forward to that, absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. Thank
Yes,
you.
definitely. Now, and you have some other more lighthearted, I think.
Yes, yes. Coming up very soon is the Sea Music Festival at Mystic Seaport. This will be the 36th annual Sea Music Festival that draws performers and fans of music related to the sea, everything from the sea shanties that were done as work songs on board ship, to the songs the sailors sang, to the ballads about the sea, to the contemporary songs of the sea. This is June 11th to June 14th at Mystic Seaport in Mystic. And that's, as I said, this is the 36th year this has been going on, and I really think it's one of Connecticut's greatest unsung jewels, because there are so many people who live in southeastern Connecticut and have not even realized it's happening. Every year we'll always have someone saying, but I've lived in Mystic all my life, and we had no idea this. But in addition to that, there's also a kind of scholarly side. There's a symposium on sea music. But unlike sort of typical scholarly conferences, these are almost performances rather than papers that include live music as well as talking about the history of these songs. And this year, for the first time, after working on this symposium for 8 years, I'm going to be giving a paper.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, not too dry, I hope, right?
Oh, not
really
at all.
Topic.
The topic is Jewish women and the music of the sea.
Oh, doesn't sound like it works, but okay.
From Miriam in the Bible to me.
That's very cute. I must say that you're a klezmer player.
Yes.
And for people who don't know what that is, that's an Eastern European kind of folk music. I was a clarinetist, terrible I was, but that's how I am a little familiar with klezmer music via my life as a horrible clarinet player.
Wow, I bet you weren't horrible at all. But yes, klezmer sound is really based around the clarinet. That's one of the most famous klezmer instruments. The music started as the folk music of Eastern Europe, played by Jews, Gypsies, Poles, Russians, people from the Balkans. And when it migrated to the New World, it became known as Jewish jazz, because the Jewish musicians, like Irving Berlin, became friendly with the Tin Pan Alley songwriters, composers, and for 20 or 30 years, this partnership flourished. In many ways, it became the basis of jazz with Benny Goodman and other musicians. And then it kind of went into a decline, but there was a huge revival of interest in this music beginning in the late 70s, early 80s. Klezmention of Eastern Connecticut, we've been together for over 10 years, and we play with a varying group of instrumentalists. Our leader is Roz Etra, who plays accordion and keyboard, and I sing with the group.
Well, that was my two instruments, the accordion and the clarinet. So you can see how this was something my mother wanted me to do. So. if I was going to be any kind of musician. So that's great. And what's your little discussion going to be? Skipping back to where we got the Jewish women.
Well, I had originally wanted to do it just because I have been. There aren't too many Jewish women involved in sea music. And I
can't think of anything. Ethel Merman's name, maybe?
I had, while I adore the music of the sea and spent my career at the Coast Guard Academy, I'm so seasick that I don't dare ever go to sea. So I've done all of my work from the shore. And what I thought of was that that's how it's been for Jewish women, from Miriam, who stood on the shore of the Red Sea and sang while the Egyptians beat her tambourine, which I also play, while the Egyptians were drowning in the sea.
Right.
And then in the Renaissance period, the Ladino, that is the Jewish Spanish language, began to a tradition which continues to this day of women singing these ballads about the exile from Spain. The Jews were kicked out of Spain in 1492. And these memories of that, there are a lot of really haunting ballads that take place on the shore of the sea. Some of them are expressed as a siren, that is a mermaid, calling to the people on land. Some of them are sung by the women whose husbands have gone off and the sea has taken them.
Wow.
And I'm going to be playing some of those songs.
So you kind of sing and speak.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And play some.
So it's not going to be a dry presentation of a paper by any stretch.
None of them are.
Yeah, oh, okay, very good.
They all include music, of course. It is a sea music symposium.
Okay.
And many of them include live music.
Wonderful.
As well as recorded.
Tell everybody again, just kind of shake them up a little.
So the Sea Music Festival at Mystic runs from Thursday, June 11th through Sunday, the 14th.
Okay.
The symposium takes place on Friday, June 12th at Connecticut College and Saturday morning at Mystic Seaport.
Okay, and when are you going to do your little
I'm
bit?
on Friday afternoon at Connecticut College.
What time?
2 p.m.
And if people are interested, how do they go and sign up?
This is easy, and it's totally free. The symposium is completely free. Anyone can come who wants to. Anyone who's interested in the festival, just go. Mystic Seaport has a very nice website. Go to the Mystic Seaport website, and you can look under the Sea Music Festival page, and all of the schedules and everything should be there.
That is wonderful. And when you say free, does that mean the admission to the Seaport is free?
No.
No, of course not.
No.
But the admission to the
the
college
yes,
is free.
it's free.
Yes, that's great. Now, also, I understand you guys are, or somebody's involved with the Chelsea Players.
Yes, that's right. I'm the vice president of the board of directors of Chelsea Players in Norwich. The Chelsea Players in Norwich we're about to start our, we've been going since 1983. We're about to start our 33rd season. And our home is in the United Congregational Church across from City Hall in Norwich.
Oh, I know exactly where it is. Yes, on Broadway.
Yes. I often joke that when I was young, I always wanted to appear on Broadway.
You got it.
And I do now.
You got it.
Last summer, we did a cabaret called the Broadway Cabaret.
Right.
And we did perform that all over the area, including at many senior living facilities. But generally, Chelsea Players does quirky plays that don't tend to be done by other community theaters. We just finished a run of Moon Over the Brewery, which was a comedy, very, very funny comedy.
Okay.
But again, with a little, some thought to it. We haven't selected our plays, but we will be doing a show in the fall and one in the spring. We do encourage local playwrights who are interested. We've produced some local playwrights.
Wonderful. So if people want to know about Chelsea Players, how can they find out info?
We do have a new website. We have a Facebook page, which is usually updated, but we have a new website that's chelseaplayersnorwich.org. Turns out that there's a lot of Chelsea players, including a soccer team in England.
That's right.
Soccer, yes.
Chelsea.
Yes, exactly. That's wonderful. I also want to give a shout out because if people are in Westerly, the Granite Theater has Razzle Dazzle, which is a great Broadway review. So everybody out there wants to hear some great Broadway songs some really old songs and some more recent ones. So go out there, Granite Theater in downtown Westerly. So that's my shout out for them. I want to thank my guests for coming, for entertaining us. It was been a lot of fun, lots of great information. I love O'Neill and Tennessee Williams, so keep that stuff coming. And I love to be entertained with wonderful old songs. So it has been my great pleasure to have you guys on, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. So again, Ann and Faye, give us the last moment. What do you want our audience to go away with? What kind of info?
I think it would be hard to summarize everything except to say that support live music and support live theater.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's very much our mission here at Community Culture Showcase. So I want to thank my guests for coming. And I want to thank my audience. You have been incredibly entertained today. I think you enjoyed hearing some wonderful music. There is some great community theater out there. I want you to go out and take a look yourselves. And then you can contact me, as always, at graysonharriet@gmail.com, and tell me what you thought about this program. And if you've got groups out there, community groups of all kinds, you think that would like it to have an audience, contact me and we'll put them on the show. Again, I want to thank you for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to be entertained by two great performers. So this is Harriet Grayson of Community Culture Showcase. I want to thank you and enjoy the summer.